sing. Grinanti, do accept. Sarvaha, the purified men who are honest. Translation. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious life of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Purport. It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stock of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, and should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change, and as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing the commentaries on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend, China, has attacked the border of India with a military spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land which is not very suitable for habitation, and certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically there is propagation by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired place in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there's so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there's a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental message for reviving for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world's atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. But when there is fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we're concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there's no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratification. In many countries there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature. Yet it is in the marketplace because people want it for sense gratification. The people in general want to read. That is a natural instinct. But because their minds are polluted, they want such literatures. Under the circumstances, transcendental literature like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activity of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also will supply food for hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy, but we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, the other literatures which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it's now presented with so many faults, for it's recommended by Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Kyanandana Salakya Shakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I remember that in 1980 in Vrindavan, Jagadish Prabhu, who was a major leader at that time, quoted this verse and established that this is the proof of Srila Prabhupada's mission. And this is the evidence that Srila Prabhupada is a Shakti Avesh avatar. Because his mission is particularly described in Srimad Bhagavatam, to somehow or other flood the entire world with transcendental literature, in particularly Srimad Bhagavatam. And that mission is predicted there. Srila Prabhupada would take this verse and place it in the preface of every part of Srimad Bhagavatam again and again. So he highlighted this verse as like basically to show what he was doing. This is what he was doing. Simply changing the world through transcendental literature, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when we look in the Chaitanya Charitamrita at the preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we see that the principal evidence that he presented was the Bhagavatam. We see that when he quoted, mostly he would quote from Bhagavatam if he was supplying evidence, sometimes from other sources, but especially Bhagavatam. Then we see that his followers are especially turning to Bhagavatam. We see that Jiva Goswami established in the Satsandarbha that actually Bhagavatam is the essence. He established first from the Chandogya Upanishad that Bhagavatam is the fifth Veda, the Pancham Veda. And when he has established that Bhagavatam is as good as Vedic literature, non-different from Vedic literature, then he just deals with the conclusions of Bhagavatam only. Bhagavatam itself then is saying Nikamakalpatara Galitam Phalam Sukhamukat Amritadrava Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mahuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukkaha, saying that this is the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. It's the essence of Vedic literature. So much Vedic literature is there. But here we go now to the essence. And this very essence, the ripened fruit of the desired tree of the Vedic literature, that is there. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we find a description how somehow or other Gopakumar traveled to the universe from one place to another. And when Gopakumar came to Brahmaloka, then Lord Brahma was saying, oh, very good that you came. You can take care of things and take the post, because I have to attend to some sacrifice, so I have to go. So then Gopakumar was fulfilling the function of Lord Brahma. And one of the things that happened was that all the Vedas personified came to Gopakumar. And it was a whole assembly there in the court of Lord Brahma. All these literatures were there and all the different personalities. And then the Upanishads, they were speaking very loud. And they dominated the whole assembly. And they began to very loudly establish the impersonalist conclusions. So then some of the confidential Upanishads, like the Gopal Tapani and some Agamas and some of the Puranas, including Bhagavatam, became very upset. And they just said, this is too much. These Puranas are hijacking the whole meeting. This is inappropriate. We cannot tolerate this. Therefore, they walked out. Now, they were very respectable, so when they walked out, that was a big drama, and everyone thought, oh my God, we have offended them, and they went after them and said, no, please, please, I mean, we didn't respect you properly, but please don't leave, we don't want to bring all kinds of inauspiciousness upon our head, and no, please return, so they returned, and then they spoke, and then they established immediately the essence which is summarized in Bhagavatam is Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. That of all these incarnations of the Lord, this one incarnation is Swayam Bhagavan. All the other incarnations are either portions or plenary portions of the Lord or partial manifestations of the Lord. But Krishna is the original self-same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he wrote his thesis, which was almost finished in his Cambridge studies, and he wrote on Prabhupada. Although Tamal Krishna Maharaj went for a university education, that was not his real purpose. His real purpose was simply to establish Prabhupada on an academic platform. And who could do it better than Prabhupada's personal secretary? So as Prabhupada's personal secretary, who is a greater authority anyway on Prabhupada? And then there were all these scholars. So Maharaj, in his thesis, all these scholars had written about Prabhupada. And they had, there were some who just had not really written very favorable. They had written about Prabhupada as just a person who was sort of an overzealous missionary, old man on a mission. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj just like bang, 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 knocked them over. They were gone, finished. Just stomped them in the ground with good arguments. Then what he did, then there were scholars who had said something positive. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, and these scholars, they said very nice things about Prabhupada, appreciated. They actually made a nice contribution, but still they missed the point. Still, they didn't really get it. Because all of them were actually seeing Prabhupada as a powerful, charismatic personality who was simply echoing what he had heard from others. But Tamal Krishna pointed out, no, he was not. He was not just doing so. Because he coined that phrase. He took the essence of Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, and then he translated that into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, that is quite a mouthful. And the first time when I got the Krishna book, somehow or other, I got the Krishna book, before I knew much about Krishna consciousness. And I thought, this book is unreadable. Unreadable. Every 3 lines, Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like, this is too much. It was just too much. But of course, it is not only... For me, it was too much, but it wasn't just too much. It's like everything is in there. Everything is in there. Godhead. Godhead. The one Supreme Personality of Godhood who manifests in many features. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam. Who is one without a second, and yet he has unlimited forms. That's Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all these forms are different manifestations of his different moods. Here we are, worshipping Krishna, worshipping Jagannath, worshipping Nrsingadev, worshipping Lord Chaitanya, so many forms of the Lord. And it's like, how do you do all that? It's the one same Supreme Lord. Krishna and Ramachandra, practically the same, but Ramachandra is not revealing everything that Krishna is revealing. Lord Ramachandra then is described to be an expansion of Krishna. Sometimes it is mentioned that the Chaturvyuha, which is a further expansion of Krishna, appears as Lord Ramachandra and his brothers. So we understand that Prabhupada, by explaining this, was explaining the very essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Simply by saying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he had included all the incarnations which are mentioned in Bhagavatam. We have various personalities who appear. Lord Kapila appears. We have a description about Yajna a reddish avatar who is the Lord in Treta Yuga for those who are performing yagyas, the Yuga Dharma then. And we get descriptions of Krishna and so on. We get descriptions of Leela avatars, right? Such as Vamana Dev. We get, or Matsya, right? So many all these are described. And all that is simply included in Godhead. It's all there. So just this word Godhead includes the whole Bhagavatam. Yeah, we can see. And then, yes, and then we see that Godhead is manifesting not only in personality, in a personal form, but also in energy. Vadanti tattvavidas gnanamatviyam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabjate. So we're seeing in Bhagavatam described that supreme absolute truth is manifesting in three features: Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. And Brahman then, the all-pervading spiritual energy of the Lord. Brahmana pratistaham, everything is resting on Brahman. Right? Whatever we see, it derives its energy from Brahman. Therefore, when we look at the sun, we understand that the sun derives its energy from Brahman. And Brahman, of course, is the energy of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke about this Shakti Parinamavat and said Brahman is the Shakti of the Lord, is the energy of the Lord. So Bhagavatam establishes that very clearly. Sankaracharya is arguing. He said Brahman is absolute. So if Brahman is absolute, how can Brahman change? Therefore, when it looks that Brahman is changed, then it must be illusion. Then that's false. We see a rope, but it looks like a snake, and we think it's a snake, but it's false. It's a rope. This is the Vivartavad philosophy of Sankaracharya, which therefore says all material energy is illusion. That's very nice when you sit in an armchair and are philosophizing, but when you try to cross the road, it's a little difficult because no one wants to become one with the road and the car. At least I don't particularly. Yeah? So then it makes sense to make distinctions, to somehow or other make distinctions and see the difference of things. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a child, said, yes, this Mayavad philosophy is not practical. So when a philosophy is not practical on the ground, then what do you do with this philosophy? That's very complicated. How superior then is the philosophy of Bhagavan, and which simply explains that the entire material world is a manifestation of the energy of Krishna and a reflection of the energy of the spiritual world, and it emanates from Krishna and it is under Krishna's control. Krishna is all-knowing. Janmadiyas yaton vyat itaratas chate svabhiksarat tene brahmaridaya adikavya muyanti surya. And all this energy of Krishna is very powerful. It can put the living being into illusion. When we are saying that this material energy is the illusory energy, it doesn't mean that the material energy is illusion. It means that the material energy can put us into illusion, and into the illusion that we think that we are this material energy, that we are a product of the material energy, and that we are this material body. Whereas when this ignorance is lifted, then we can realize our eternal position as an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, that there is no question of existence separate from the Supreme Lord. If we are a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, How can we exist separate from him? That's artificial. We are not separate from him. So the idea that simply to have a separate existence from God has one problem, is that we are fundamentally one with him, fundamentally part of him. And because we are fundamentally part of him, therefore it is not possible to live a life without God consciousness. It is not possible. That is only illusion. One encounters God anyway, says Bhagavad Gita. I am the taste in water. We encounter him everywhere. We encounter him everywhere in this material energy. So in this way, whether we want or not, we are always with Krishna. When the living being turns away from Krishna, then he feels, yes, now I'm independent from him. I have done it. Now I am free. Now I can do anything I want. Aha, yes. Bollywood and Hollywood and all the other hollow things. All those things that have so little meaning. Yes. But all that is simply distraction, because the truth of the matter is we're still relating to Krishna. Because it's still his energy. We're walking on the earth. And where does that come from? And what energy is that? And this earth stays in an orbit. And how does that happen? And the sun shines, and there are seasons, and how are they happening? And there is food, and we have a need for it. And how is all that happening? Right? And so on and so on. All happening by divine arrangement. And when we rebel, then, and we are no longer respecting the Supreme Lord, and no longer recognizing that there is an order in the universe, and no longer recognizing that there is a system of governance set up by the Supreme Lord, then the material energy will show its ugly face. Then we'll have disasters, then we'll have all kinds of issues, from exploding volcanoes to huge snowstorms out of season, or we'll have drought. I was in Cape Town, and that was like the first city running out of water. And as soon as I arrived on the airport, went to the bathroom, and there was no water coming out of the tap. Now, as a devotee, that is like, like, just that wasn't so nice. So I stood there, and one man says, "Take hand sanitizer." I go, "What?" And they use this hand sanitizer, like instead of soap, they have hand sanitizers. Like, and they rub this stuff over your hands. God knows where that comes from. Probably dead animals, and with some perfume and some stuff, and then your hands are clean, right? So anyway, I walked all the way. I mean, I couldn't chant it. I didn't want to touch my beads, so I like walking like this till I finally got some water. Gosh, that was rough. And they gave a list. They gave a list in the news of other cities that would run out of water soon, and London was on the list. Now London, and it was the BBC was saying that London was going to run out of water. Now, I dare say London, it rains a lot, but somehow or other, no water in London, no water. No water in London. Now, my dear, that's getting close to home. So, if we consider all that, how about that, right? In where I'm from, in Holland, it's the other way. Too much water. The water is coming up, you know. Anyway, in the history of the Netherlands, there is this one famous sailor who said, "It's early enough to think about drowning when the water's up to your lips." So, yes, and I like that man, because at least he's not on the mental platform. We can be on the mental platform about everything in life, everything that can go wrong, and you know, and that doesn't go wrong in the end, but that could have gone wrong, and possibly imagine it would have gone wrong, and then, you know, like in this way one can live a life, but that's another form of illusion. We can see Srila Gorkasuradas Babaji was going blind. His eyesight was extremely bad. So he was sitting somewhere near a house in front of a veranda chanting, and this huge black snake came and just moved right past him, like, you know, really, really close. And then some lady said, oh, Babaji almost died today. Oh, you know, I mean, he got saved. A miracle, a miracle, a miracle. And he just said, like, you know, what's the problem? You know, it's just peacefully chanting Hare Krishna and you're making all this noise now. So, no, there was a big black snake. You know, so what? It's a big black snake, you know, I mean, nothing happened. He was not impressed at all and didn't consider it worth even one word or a thought. Yeah, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are here in the temple of Shri Prahlad Nrsimha, and then naturally we think about Prahlad Maharaj, and when you see Prahlad Maharaj, he is, of course, described at length in Bhagavatam, and the amazing thing is that Prahlad is totally calm, no matter what happens. Okay, Prahlad, we're gonna boil you like a pakora right now, Prahlad. What do you think of that? Well, he didn't worry about it. I mean, we would say, no, you know, I have some savings. I'll give you if you don't. I'll, you know. We try and think of a way to escape somehow or other. Last minute, anything we will come up with to not be burned in the hot oil. But Prahlad was never thinking like that, because Prahlad was always thinking, I am perfectly protected at all times. At all times, I'm perfectly protected by the Supreme Lord. So, in this verse, we're seeing a verse how the Bhagavatam, in particular, can bring about a revolution in a misdirected civilization. That's what we're seeing. So, in this way, we can appreciate that by distributing, especially the Bhagavatam, we can change the world. And then we can also understand that in order to distribute the Bhagavatam, we must absorb the Bhagavatam. It requires the Bhagavatam to distribute the Bhagavatam. Because without the Bhagavatam, how can one find the strength? Because one has to an extent, be like Prahlad. Nirapeksha, totally unaffected. If one doesn't have that mood of being unaffected, if one is affected by anything and everyone, then the first person who goes, excuse me, oh my God, he growled at me. Oh no, that was terrible, right? Oh my God! I mean, like, you know, how can people treat me like this? Yeah, I mean, I need some therapy. Yeah, okay. After 3 hours of therapy, try again, right? So one has to have some sense of being unaffected and a sense of being protected. Yeah. So we have to see that the Bhagavatam is the source of our strength. Therefore, if you want to distribute Bhagavatam, you have to read Bhagavatam and you have to live Bhagavatam. Otherwise, how can you distribute Bhagavatam? Not possible. How can anyone distribute books unless they read them and unless they really try to live by them? As much as they can. And then, in the cause of preaching, in the cause of somehow or other bringing Krishna consciousness to others, yes, then we'll get further purified and we'll get more advanced. It's one thing to try and be like Prahlad and try to be fearless, and it's another thing to be fearless. It's okay to try. I mean, personally, if you want to throw me in a pit with snakes, I definitely will not be fearless. I will be extremely afraid. Oh, even that one is enough. I have experience. I used to, when I was married, I lived in Mayapur, and one day I'm inside our room, and my former wife, she comes home and she calls out, "Quick, quick! Come outside, there's a big black snake in front of the door." I said, like, why don't you go for a walk and come back in 15 minutes and tell me if it's still there? I thought, why would I go outside, like, to fight with a big black snake? I said, like, let the snake. The snake came, it won't stay very long, it will move on, and it's told her, you go for a walk and come back and tell me if it's gone. Because I don't really like them so much, I mean, don't particularly. So what to do? But if it comes to the crunch, for the sake of Krishna, for devotional service, all right, then we'll face a snake, right? No problem, we'll do it. But, I mean, there might be just a little bit of heartbeat in the background. Boom, 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 boom. So in this way, we cannot imitate. We cannot imitate Anusar and Anukar. Anusar means to imitate the personalities of the Bhagavatam. Oh yes, we read about a pure devotee and we begin to speak like a pure devotee, at least our interpretation of one. And, and we act like a perfect actor in a Shakespearean drama. But that will not do. It has to be real, and step by step. But taking shelter of the Bhagavatam is required. I was reading about Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj is, of course, an interesting personality, because Bali Maharaj is identified in the Nectar of Devotion as the one who personifies Atmanivedanam, one of the ninefold processes of devotional service mentioned in the Bhagavatam, and which means surrender of mind, body, and soul. So, all right, surrender is a difficult thing. So, Bali Maharaj is interesting. And now, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bali Maharaj is discussed further. And it was saying when Bali Maharaj was surrendering everything to Vamana, and when Vamana was asking for the 3 steps of land, and even Sukracharya was saying, don't do it, it's Vishnu, and he was still ready to give, then Bali Maharaj is known to surrendered mind, body, and soul. But then it's explained by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that was external. That internally still hadn't fully surrendered. And he had to go through more. And that then, therefore, Lord Vamana made that arrangement that Bali Maharaj was arrested and sort of strangled in a snake and kept hanging in that snake for a long time, and it's uncomfortable. Somehow or other the snakes are really present today. And he was hanging in that snake and couldn't breathe. And very uncomfortable, obviously. And it said, and that's what he got. He had just given everything he had, and what does he get in return? To be strangled by a snake. Now, some people would have gotten angry. Right? And said like, now, look at this. I gave him everything I had, and look what he's doing to me now. You know, I'm getting strangled in a snake. You know, he is a snake. Right? Wouldn't it be easy to think like that? It's not a big step, right? It's like, you know, and I'll get him back, you know. Oh yes, wait till I get out of here, you know. And I will take my 3 steps of land back, you know. Right? I mean, that would be it's a recognizable reaction that one could have. So you can see that Bali Maharaj had to conquer these things, these more subtle attachments and had to give up the sense of I am the controller. And that he had to understand that Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the Supreme Lord. He is the Supreme Controller. He is Parameshwar. He is Parameshwar. I am not Parameshwar. He is Parameshwar. I'm Choteshwar. I am a tiny little Iswara. Choti Choteshwar. That's me. Yes. I am just Choti Choteshwar. That means the small controller. And not Parameshwar, the Supreme Controller. So in this way, it is through Bhagavatam that we begin to understand. Therefore, when I speak about Bhagavatam, I would like to offer various ways that Bhagavatam works. So that on the heart of the demon, it works like a thunderbolt. And it's just like the heart of the materialistic person has become very hard, like a rock. It is there like a rock. It's just like, no, this has nothing to do with me. People can die left, people can die right, but that's not my problem, you know. I mean, I watch it on TV and I munch on some cookies at the same time and have a cup of tea or coffee, right? And it doesn't faze me out at all these people being slaughtered there because it's on the other side of the world, and it's just very unfortunate, but that's the way it is, you know. So, hard, insensitive, animals being killed, so much killing going on, and not caring. No compassion, no sense of sympathy for the suffering of others. Right? Nothing. One who suffers himself sometimes can feel for others. I know what it's like. Oh yeah. Oh, toothache. Oh yeah, I know all about it. Oh, you know. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Some sympathy. Yes. Somewhat suffering. But no sympathy. Nothing. So this is demon. Aghasura is described as a demon who is so cold-hearted that by mystic power he takes the form of a snake. And it's said for him, living entities are like utensils. Something you use and dispose of after use. So, you know, as you say, you know, chew them up and spit them out. Right. Yeah. So this is going on. So the heart of the demon is hard, and Bhagavatam works like a thunderbolt. It cracks that hard rock. So it just confronts them, and they may ignore it, they may deny it, they may say like, we don't want this. No, this is rubbish. This is, who can make, you know. Sometimes you meet people who say, you can't make any sense of these books. You know, can't understand a letter of it. others, when they read the Bhagavatam, they just feel, this makes complete sense. This is exactly what I've always been looking for. In Sweden, Yogendra, a Prabhupada disciple who was distributing books, tells his story, and his story was that somehow or other he distributed one Bhagavatam to a lady. And this Bhagavatam, the lady got it, and then after half an hour, a man came with the book, and he was fuming. He was raging. He said, "You pushed this book upon my wife, and she didn't really want it, and you forced her to take it, and this and that, and and it's like, it's total rubbish. And I'm telling you, it's not even Swedish." It was in Sweden. It's not even Swedish. It's a foreign language, because he had opened the book and he'd read some of the Sanskrit. Right? So then Yogendra said, no, it's Swedish. Open it up. Just read from anywhere. So the man opened it up and he read from anywhere, and then there was a verse about controlling anger, and then a person who could not control his anger would just become victimized and so on. And then the guy read it out loud, and he just stood there and he closed the book and walked away with it. No, it's an amazing story of but how the Bhagavatam has the solutions. It has the solutions for the problems of life. It has the guidelines. In this way, it is not just some sort of book without meaning, a book that is very complex, philosophical, and very difficult to understand. No, it's a practical book. It deals with real life, and issues of real life are coming up. I mean, how many people have an anger problem? And Dhruva had an anger problem. He did. It's interesting, as a kid, it was bad. Right? He had a real temper. He's 5 years old, and he's such a temper that when his stepmother said, "No, you can't sit on the lap of your father," and his stepbrother was already sitting on the lap, and the stepbrother was pushing him down as well. So then he became so angry with both of them, and he went to the forest, and he was like just burning in anger, and therefore he wanted to show them, and he wanted a kingdom greater than his father and grandfather, just to show that he was bigger than them. He was ready. He was still angry, and and then what happened is that he performs his austerity, gets a darshan of the Lord, and then the Lord comes, and then the Lord, and then he says, "Oh, I approached you," Dhruva says to the Lord, "I approached you for broken pieces of glass, but you've given me diamonds. I wanted so many things from you, but now that I've seen you, there is nothing that I want. All my desires are fulfilled." But because previously he had been so angry, then the Lord said, "No, but in the future, you will gain a great kingdom, and your stepmother, she will die in a forest fire." She had to burn because of her own envy. "And your stepbrother, he will be killed by the Yakshas." And then so it came to pass. Dhruva grew up, Dhruva was a king, and then his brother became killed by the Yakshas. Then Dhruva was there killing Yakshas left and right, not a little bit. I mean, just killing them by the thousands and quick, raining arrows, mantras, and so the Yakshas were getting quickly wiped out. So again, the seniors had to come. Swayambhuva came, Kuvera came to pacify Dhruva, to get him to control his anger. "Dhruva, you're getting too angry now. A little bit of anger is appropriate, like as a king, when they come and they attack your country, you have to show them. If you mess with us, you're in trouble." That's part of ruling a kingdom. you know, so that no one will dare to attack the kingdom. But, you know, you can stop now. But Dhruva was driven by anger, or maybe also by guilt, because after all he had sort of desired it, and now he was kind of the cause of it all. And to forget that, he also had to kill left and right, so that, like, you know, he's like reconfirming to himself, they did it, they killed my brother, it wasn't me. That's also there. But anyway, we can see all these subtle issues, of these subtle psychological motivations that were driving Dhruva, and the same with us. We're also driven by guilt feelings, by anger, by so many things. And once we recognize it, we can overcome. So Bhagavatam, therefore, after the Bhagavatam has cracked the heart of the demons, then Bhagavatam is for us, and it is like, what do we do with it? It begins with introspection to the Bhagavatam. We begin to look at the Bhagavatam, and we begin to go into that Bhagavatam to try not just to understand who is Hiranyakasipu, who is Prahlad, who are these personalities, but to understand who are we in relation to them. The Bhagavatam sets to us, holds up a mirror. Here's Hiranyakasipu. Are you like Hiranyakasipu? Am I like Hiranyakasipu? Well, he is, I must say, when it comes to acting, he's one of my favorite characters that I like to play. So, I am controlling the entire universe. All of you! When I raise my eyebrow, you shudder with fear, you little creatures. But I let you live, if I so desire. But when I don't desire it, then there's no place for you to go, other than the abode of Yamaraj. See, I do a nice Hiranyakasipu. If I would put on the costume. I don't have to applaud, but I know I'm good at it. It comes natural. I don't have to fake it. You know, like when I think like this I can do easy. If I have to play a saint, then I have to rehearse, you know. It's like, look in front of the mirror, huh? Okay, put that saintly look. Yeah, so in other words, introspection to the Bhagavatam. We don't say, oh, look at this Hiranyakasipu, what a demon. Ho, 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 Hiranyakasipu, ho, ho, ho. No. Where is the Hiranyakasipu in us? Are we little Hiranyakasipus? Gold and soft bed? Hiranya, gold, Kasipu, soft bed? Yes. So we can see, and we can measure ourselves to the pure devotional service of Prahlad and see what a level of faith he had. Faith in Krishna. How he had so much faith that the Supreme Lord is just unlimitedly kind. So in this way, through the Bhagavatam, we can understand. And then, if one really reads the Bhagavatam, absorbs the Bhagavatam, then one can walk around there in the world and distribute the mercy and be blissful. And even if people go like, wow, don't worry, you'll be all right, you know. I mean, we won't be intimidated by a growl. Say, yeah, you know, I used to growl also. It's a tough world, isn't it? Yeah. I suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm growling. Because growling has become the second nature. One of Prabhupada's favorite themes is to call people cats and dogs. You know, you listen to his lecture and he speaks about cats and dogs and cats and dogs and cats and dogs. Yesterday, I was listening to a cats and dog lecture, and Prabhupada said it about 20 times in the lecture, comparing people to cats and dogs, cats and dogs, cats and dogs. But that's what they do.
Who are you? What are you doing here? This is my turf. Hello, do you think that I will accept this from you?
Cats and dogs can see. So, yeah. Bhagavatam will expose all this and lift us above all this contamination. At least we begin to see. And then we follow the reins. We let the Bhagavatam rule our life. We follow the regulative principles of the Bhagavatam. And we just begin to adjust our life accordingly. And with it we change. First externally, like Bali Maharaj, and then internally. By the experience, and by even while we are going through we take up spiritual life, and we go through the tapasya of taking up spiritual life. And then even while going through the tapasya, we do not lose faith, and we do not curse. We do not say, oh God, this is too much. I mean, I have to go through all this, I mean, come on, Krishna, give me a break. No. So, oh Krishna, oh yes, now I have to go through all this, but this is your costless mercy. I need the purification. All right, my Lord, please make me stronger by all this austerity, so that I can be like Prahlad and have that full faith in you. And in this way, through Bhagavatam, we can remember how to act even at difficult times in devotional service and stay strong and fixed. And then finally we come out to the real purpose of Bhagavatam, which is Vayam tu navitripyama uttama sloka vikrame yatsrin vatan rasa jnanam swadu swadu pade pade swadu. 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 To enjoy, to relish. To relish this, to simply relish. So this is very nice. This is very sweet. This is very good. And in this way, this Bhagavatam can bring about a revolution in a misdirected, misguided civilization, and where people are growling at each other and actually bring happiness. And we already must read it first, or at least on the go, so that we also, and then try to realize it, so that we emanate happiness. Otherwise, it will be hard. I mean, if we are totally depressed, this is the greatest knowledge. It makes you happy. I don't know. Nobody's interested in these books. I really tried. No, I approached so many people today. Oh God, I hate life. I'm suffering. It's too much. Everything is too difficult. I'm fried. How can it go? So excuse me, if I'm here, I really can't. Oh no. Okay. And nobody takes any of these books. Nobody's interested. The world today is so degraded. Yeah. No wonder. So we must ourselves really live by it and make it our own. And the more we will do, the more we'll become an instrument of the Bhagavatam. And the more satisfied we'll become, and the more we'll become dear to everyone else. Dira, dira, priya jano, priya karo. We'll become appreciated by the devotees and the non-devotees, by the gentle and the ruffians. Yeah. Any questions, any comments?
I have one question. I read in Chaitanya's teachings there are two Krishnas. One is an avatar, And one is the highest personality of Godhead.
Okay. There are two Krishnas. Well, there is Krishna. There is the Krishna of Vrindavan, right? And there's also the Krishna in Mathura, Vasudeva Krishna. He's not an avatar, he's an expansion of the original Krishna. Yeah. And as an expansion of the original Krishna, even he is attracted to Krishna in Vrindavan. But he's also Krishna. But he's not fully manifesting every aspect of his nature. When he's in Mathura and in Dwarka, Krishna is doing Paritranaya sadhanam vinasya saduskritam dharmasam sapanatya sambhavama yuge. He's establishing principles of his religion, annihilating demons. He does what all avatars do. He does the work of an avatar. But he's still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Govindamadi Purusham. He's always Govindamadi Purusham. Prabhupada is explaining that when Prabhupada was in Delhi, Prabhupada named the deities Parthasarthi, and he named them Sisi Radha Parthasarthi. So, Parthasarthi means the chariot driver of Arjuna. Now, Radha Parthasarthi, well, how is that possible? Isn't that rasabas, mixing of rasas? Because here is Arjuna on the battlefield, you know, and what has Radharani got to do with this? So finally, after some years, someone had the courage to ask Prabhupada, and they asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, wherever Krishna is, Radharani is always there, even in Kurukshetra. But hidden. Yeah. So there Krishna doesn't reveal that. But actually, he's still Krishna. He's not an avatar. He's still Swayam Bhagavan. Still the internal reality is completely with him. But some or other is acting out another pastime now. Now he's on the battle of Kurukshetra. Well, not shooting the air, but riding the horses. And Arjuna is fighting and like that. So Vasudeva Krishna is in Mathura, and Vraj Krishna is in Vrindavan. Vasudeva Krishna is an expansion of Vraj Krishna. It's the same Krishna, but it's not fully manifesting all his qualities. So there's no, this avatar thing, you must have remembered it a little wrong. It's expansion. He is Krishna, but in a different mood. That's why the gopis were not satisfied when they saw Krishna in Kurukshetra. There he was, in a royal mood and so on. So, no, he's Krishna, but we don't want him in this mood. We want him, therefore we draw him back to Vrindavan. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Ratha